Here's a simple chart of just how massively rape is increasing in France. Do you think it's the locals just suddenly deciding to up their number, or perhaps it's the tens of thousands of violent migrants pouring in? Wait, I like how the Quartering's post right here implies that it's impossible for there to be any shift in crime within a demographic, even if there's no population change. What? Like, crime went up quite a bit back in 2020 during COVID in the United States. Our population barely changed. What do you mean? Like, what? Like, this is also the COVID jump right here. Now, prove this recorded instant course based smelly brown people. Nowhere in this data set does it separate by racial demographics. And I'm guessing from the 900 comments in reply, I'm guessing it's a bunch of people saying, yeah, it's obviously Muslims. From Marsupial Gamer. How can we possibly find that info? If only we had some kind of tool that could search a okay, so they link a thing. 92% of thefts and 62% of sexual assaults in Paris regional transport committed by foreign nationals. Foreign nationals includes all foreign nationals. Yes, from EuropeanConservative.com. There we go. Like, this could be Polish people. This could be Germans. Where does this... Like, this is just all foreign nationals. Figures published in an annual report released last week by France's Interior Ministry revealed the non-French nationals, despite composing 18.5% of the population. 18.5! 18.5%! And earlier, the Quartering was like, tens of thousands of violent migrants. We're talking about millions of people. We're talking about foreign nationals here. They do this bait and switch in the UK all the time. Yeah. They're like, yeah, Muslim migrants are doing all this crime. And then they'll show data, and the data will be like, yeah, non-British or non-white people have done crime or whatever. And it's like, what? Those aren't the same statistics. With regard to instances of sexual assault in public transportation or in the Ile-de-France region, non-French nationals accounted for 62%, with those from sub-Sahara Africa composing 23% of all foreigners accused of the offense. I'm sorry, are these all based on accusations? My assumption with these were convictions. Yeah, no shit, the people that the right-wing media in France are constantly going after are going to have disproportionate accusations. Are we just talking about accusations? Yeah, of those accused of committing theft or sexual assault. Nice. French citizens compose 20% of those accused of committing violent robbery on public transportation in France. Non-French nationals make up 80% of that number. 61% came from North Africa. And thefts without violence like pickpocketing, non-French is 92%, North African once again at 59%. And of course this shit is in French. 2020, the police and gendarmerie services conducted recorded 116,000 victims of theft and violence in public transport. Thefts without violence constitute the most characteristic type of delinquency in public transport. They represent 80% of victims of theft and violence in public transport, 17% of Ile-de-France, with a particularly developed public transport network, accounts for 2/3 of attacks recorded, 1/3 of non-violent thefts. Number of recorded victims fell sharply on all public transport in 2020. The number of victims of nonviolent theft thus decreased by 30%, that of sexual violence by 28%, and that of intentional assault and battery of 25%. Oh, that's a curious piece of data that wasn't in the article that we just looked at, weirdly. Oh, theft and sexual assault and battery all plummeted in 2020. Okay. All right, well, yeah, everyone say thank you, Muslims. More than half are registered as foreigners. Oh, the rest of it's in the full thing that I won't be able to translate. I don't care that much. Well, because of COVID, then it went back up. Hey, man, that's the report they're citing. Dude, Europeans love doing this. They always do this. Look, in October, a study commissioned and carried out by the Finnish government revealed that foreign-born residents were vastly overrated in cases of rape and child sex crime last year. Despite comprising less than 7% of Finland's total population, individuals from this cohort were found to have accounted for nearly 38% of the country's rape suspects in 2020. The Finnish study's finding mirrored data in a separate study published weeks earlier by the Swedish government, which showed that first-generation immigrants were nearly 3 times likely to be rape suspects. Like, dude, is it that hard to find conviction statistics? They always do this. Well, yeah, Dr. Strange. They're just going by, like, foreign status there. Anyway, how'd this whole damn argument go? Okay, this was the original tweet from the Quartering. Paris has fallen, not a single shot was fired. Let's see how Paris has fallen. Because Muslims exist, gotcha. That's crazy. I can't believe that people who exist. How did it fall? They're peacefully praying on Friday. I don't know, the grooming gangs. Remember the grooming gang thing in Britain that was for years and years, and we actually debated it, and Sargon fell apart, like he disintegrated instantly because it was a completely made-up term that didn't correspond to any real, like, statistical misrepresentation? I remember that. Gang rapes, violent criminals, skyrocketing crime, you pick. There are literal no-go zones. Then why not mention that instead of just showing a Friday prayer? Good question, Mutahar. If these are all the things that bother the quartering, why are people peacefully praying the thing that he shows? It's almost like his issue isn't the crime and might just be the existence of Muslims. Here you go, France. Oh, we have another video. We have a video of two tiny white girls transported through time all the way from the 1950s. What's going on with them? They get stabbed? We're not going to watch that then. This video is so old, Lamau. I mean, it looks like it's from the 50s, so scroll down, see if there's a clan rally in the comments. There is a clan rally in the comments. I love my anecdotes. All right. Paris has been overrun by foreign invaders who destroyed their own countries with backward ideologies. There are literal no-go zones, grooming, rape gangs. Out of curiosity, how do Western chauvinists think that Islam destroyed their own countries when, for one, the Muslim world is rapidly growing right now, and for two, for multiple periods in history, the Muslim world has been like world dominant, you know? From the Ottomans all the way back to the golden age of Islam. I'm just curious what they mean by this. The same thing is happening to America. That's true. They don't know what any of that is. Yeah. There are literal no-go zones. Been hearing about this. Never been proven, you know. I'm reminded of that Lauren Southern video where she's walking around a totally ordinary, nice-looking neighborhood, and she's got her phone camera out, and she's, like, zooming in on brown people, just walking around, not doing anything, and she's like, France has fallen. No longer do people wear French braids. That's not a joke, by the way. She actually said that. And she's, what, Canadian, American? I don't give a f***. And she was like, they no longer wear French braids in France, while filming, like, brown people walking around. It was fantastic. Strangely, these no-go zones have existed for 9 years. I mean, they've been around since 2015 when this culture war Syrian refugee crisis thing started, and yet no one's actually found any evidence of them. It's pretty crazy. And then the quartering showed this statistic right here, number of recorded sexual offenses in France from 2016 to 2023. Then Mutahar says, how does this isolate a specific demographic? And then we saw this right here, which doesn't correspond to anything that the quartering said, and like at all. It's just totally unrelated statistics. And then Mutahar says, it took 30 seconds to debunk your headline while I was running a round of siege. Again, this is the last word I have to say. Really don't want to continue clogging the TL with this nonsense, sorry. Despite making up roughly just 4% of the population, France's prisons are 70% Muslim. I wonder why that is. But it's not true. The origin of this stat seems to be a book called Islam in Prisons by Farhad Khosrovkavar, a French sociologist, even though he doesn't use it himself and the figure has been misattributed to him. Professor Khosrovkavar carried out a survey of 4 prisons in, quote, sensitive areas in Paris and north of France. I emailed the professor, who rejects the 70% figure altogether and says that he reckons a true figure is around half, 40 to 50%. But, he stressed, these are just estimates because the French government does not record these things. Okay, that said, all I was looking for was an answer to that prayer video in France falling. I don't really care much for the side of the internet. As a Muslim who grew up here, it's sad to see the rise in Islamophobia kick in. I get there are some bad immigrants, but painting a whole community brings me back to growing up post 9/11. Not a fun thing to revisit. Feel for Mutahar here. Your content is great, dude, but this is an L for you. What? L take, mate. You should know the difference between 9/11 fear-mongering and crime statistics. Man, I wonder how it feels for Mutahar, for a lot of the people that he's brought into his fan base, to watch him deal with literal, like, racial, like, 1350 posting on his group. And to say to him, hey, I'm a fan of yours, but take the L, man. You know, Muslims are barbaric, you know? I thought you were from India. Unsubscribe and unfollow. Muslims threat women like poo. Bye-bye. As opposed to men in India, famous for their good treatment of women, except it's not Islamophobia, it's facts, and you just don't like to acknowledge the facts because you fail to accept that your religion has its problems like everyone else's. It's really easy to see illegal immigration as ruining Western society. Stop denying it. Wait, when were we talking about illegal immigration? They were just talking about migrancy, a legal process. What? That's a different thing. You're mixing up your talking points, the Rizzler. It's not Islamophobia. They are trying to take over, and they openly say it on their independent news networks all day, and we ignore it. Would you perhaps feel more comfortable in a 100% Muslim nation? This would be very easy to achieve, seeing as how you're fabulously wealthy. Just sell your $1 million home and buy a plane ticket. Why not? What? Muslims have been systematically ruining France for decades. This is not Islamophobia. It's just a fact of life over here. I know who you're replying, and then blue checkmark dribble. That goes on for a while. Do you think there might be a reason the French government doesn't record that data, Mutahar? Yes. The famously not racist French government, which doesn't record racial statistics because they're politically correct. You know, the French government very, very concerned with racial political correctness. Maybe they don't have time to record racial statistics while they're too busy keeping their boot down on half of Africa. It's because the Jews got persecuted in World War II thanks to census data? Is that really why? Well, you do realize that the Quarterings fan base would also call that, like, woke progressivism, right? They would also say, like, oh, yeah, I bet you know why the French government didn't record racial statistics, because it was showing how many Jews were in banking. Like, that is unironically what a Quartering fan would say. So would it be a good habit to just ignore blue check marks? That's always been the rule. How do you reason with unreasonable? Well, like I said before, most of these anxieties that these commenters are expressing come from a place of sexual insecurity. You'll notice that they're basically all men, and all of them are coming at this from the perspective of, like, civilization is ending because of such and such. They frame these criticisms through stuff like grooming gangs and rape gangs, but they don't care about rape or grooming because, again, they're anti-feminists. They don't believe in, like, the Me Too movement. On every structural level, they want to make things harder for rape victims. They're incredibly in favor of, like, you know, Western chauvinist, like, brutish, masculine, you know, red pill bullshit, right? So what do they actually care about? What they care about is that they think that by now they should have been getting sloppy toppy from a blonde, pale woman with braids. And they're not. That's not happening to them right now. They aren't getting sloppy toppy from any woman, let alone a blonde white woman with braids. So that makes them feel bad right here. It feels like they've lost something important to them. And they want to go out blaming things. And if you're looking for something to blame, and your concern is that you're not getting your, like, traditional Western masculine happily ever after, there are political groups that make a lot of money that are very interested in weaponizing your anxieties for a political cause. And it's very easy for them to do that in ways that turn you against Muslims, immigrants, brown people broadly, you know? That's it. I really hope that you guys don't get tired of me repeating this line, because it is the easiest way to explain where all of this comes from, and I'm going to keep doing it. It is true, and I want the greatest number of people possible thinking in these terms, because once you understand where this all comes from, they are very pathetic, yes. It's a lot easier to understand, like, where these anxieties have to be sort of targeted and directed, I guess.